Morning. Yeah.
The process would be do the pallbearers have to.
I'm gonna gather you all right now.
Okay. Do it so often.
I'm sorry?
You know the process and
Yeah.
do it often.
Joseph was wondering if you had any extra teapots.
Yes.
How many do you need?
Sure.
Just one. A bunch.
Okay, let's do this.
Friends, if you'll come over on this side, you can just walk right through here. We try not to step on the graves, but we can walk through and we'll assemble on this side of the microphone and the podium. Can I get somebody to help me get these out?
Oh, whoops, a lot.
Soinai, Hecharim, Me'ayin Yavo Ezri, Soinai, Hecharim, Me'ayin Yavo Ezri, Ezri, Me'im Adonai, Osei, Shemayim V'aretz, Ezri, Me'im Adonai, Osei, Shemayim V'aretz. I lift my eyes up to the mountains, and what is the source of my help? My help comes from Adonai, the maker of heaven and earth. 99 years. He almost made it. Gene met with his CPA or a financial advisor at one point in his life, I'm told, and the advisor said that if you can live to 107, you won't have to pay capital gains taxes. And so Gene said, I'll do that. He did make it. He did make it because he's filled his life with all of you, with meaning, with purpose, with generosity, with tzedakah, with a love for family and community, with wisdom, with patience, with a remarkable ability with technology for a person of his era, we'll say, a fluency in all new things. There was a courageousness about him and a sense of wonder at the world, a desire to take on new things and then learn how to perfect them. And he would do that studiously, whether it was playing guitar, piano, skiing, you're going to lose your boot, or anything else. He was deeply committed to making things better for himself and for others. And so, as difficult as it is, and as much as we also anticipated this day, we celebrate his life. The lessons that he taught, the example that he left us, the guide that will continue to guide us in our lives. I'm going to share a few readings from our Jewish tradition and then some words from Rabbi Bregman and myself. Was there somebody else that was speaking? I don't remember. Here? Yeah, Amanda, right. And from the grandchildren as well, yes. The psalm that I chanted as we began, Esa Enai, continues, I lift my eyes to the mountains. What is the source of my help? My help comes from Adonai, the maker of heaven and earth. God will not let your foot give way. Your protector will not slumber. See, the protector of Israel neither slumbers nor sleeps. God is your guardian and God is your protection at your right hand. The sun will not strike you by day nor the moon by night. God will guard you from all harm. God will guard your soul, your going and your coming, now and forever. In another psalm, we read, Adonai mi yagur bo'ochalecha mi yishkan b'har kodshecha. Adonai, O God, who at the end of their life is measured for reward, is given the merit of being remembered for blessing. Those who are upright, who do justly, who speak the truth within their hearts, who do not slander others or wrong them or bring shame upon them, who scorn the lawless, but honor those who revere God, who give their word and come what may, do not retract it, who do not exploit others, who do not take bribes. Those who live in this way shall never be shaken. Amen. Rabbi Bregman, Adonai Roi.
Kind of funny that I'm moving the mic down because for those of you who don't know, I had people in the congregation who were my silent warriors, so to speak. They were there at a moment's notice. Eugene provided the entire sound system for the synagogue. It wasn't for me, it was for the other people who wouldn't project. As I said to Amanda the other day, there's one word that is so perfect for Gene. A Yiddish word. He was a mensch, a proper, kind, loving human being. And our hearts go to you, the family. May he be at peace. Mizmor David, the Psalm of David. Adonai ro'i lo achsar, the Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. Binadeshi erbetzeni, he makes me to lie down in green pastures. Al mei menochot yanachaleni, he leads me beside the still waters, nafshi yeshaveb, he restores my soul. Yancheni b'malek tzedek l'man shemo, he guides me in straight paths for his name's sake. Gam kielech begetzel mavet, yea, though I walk in the valley of the shadow of death, lo yirara ki ati amadi, thou shall fear no evil, for thou art with me. Shiftecha mishantecha hema yanachamuni, thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. Torach lefenai shulchan neged sarai, thou preparest a table before me in the presence of mine enemies. Dishemen Ishanta v'shemen roshi kosir, thou hast anointed my head with oil, and my cup runneth over. Ach tov v'chesed yerdafuni kol yemei chayei, surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life. V'shati b'beit Adonai lorech yomim, and I shall dwell in the house of the Lord forever.
Amen. Thank you, Rabbi. A more modern poem. In the rising of the sun and its going down, we will remember him. In the blowing of the wind and the chill of winter, we will remember him. In the opening of buds and the rebirth of spring, we will remember him. In the rustling of leaves and the beauty of autumn, we will remember him. In the beginning of the year and when it ends, we will remember him. When we are weary and in need of strength, we will remember him. When we are lost and sick at heart, we will remember him. When we have joys we yearn to share, we will remember him. So long as we live, he too shall live, for he's now a part of us as we remember him. And so I want to ask Gene's grandchildren to come forward and to share their memories as they remember him for blessing. Mike is not that sensitive, so speak right into it. Okay?
Of course, I don't have my technology as sorted out as Grandpa would have here. One sec. Okay, so my name is Charles, and I'm Gene's grandson and Karen and Greg's son. Extraordinary is the one word I kept coming to when thinking of Grandpa Gene. There's so many other amazing words that I'm sure you'll hear throughout the day. He was the only grandfather I ever got to meet, and to have him for my entire life, till now, almost 40 years, extraordinary. It's clear he left a huge impression on myself. My career in real estate, my passion for skiing and Whistler, my calm attitude, and hopefully even this head of hair that I have. He impacted all of those. One of my favorite lines that he would say is that there's no such thing as a bad ski day. A bad day is when you're not skiing. What an amazing life that he lived. And I've been a part of it for, again, the last 38 years. So just think of some of the things he did even in that last 38 years. He became a ski bum in his 70s and kept skiing well into his 80s. He founded a successful business with his son-in-law, my father, Greg. I don't have a daughter, but if I do, I don't think I'll ever start a business with her son in the future. He really wanted to keep working forever. Quite recently, he'd still be talking about projects, developments, different things he wanted to do, seemingly unaware that people don't work into their late 90s. As you talked earlier, he was aware and so adept in technology more than almost anyone. He knew every new feature of an iPhone. He knew how to use a sous vide to cook the steak to the exact perfect temperature. In a lot of ways, he wasn't the most traditional grandfather. For instance, when my wife Kyle and I were thinking of buying a home in Squamish, his initial line was, "Why the hell would you do that?" And that's coming from a guy who went to Whistler every single weekend and had business interests in Squamish. But that led to having a great relationship, even probably a better relationship with him as an adult than as a child. He was interested in every job that I had and what it entailed, not just to make conversation with his grandson, but because he was really interested in knowing how the business worked and if there was a way it could be done better. He wanted to try the craft beer I was drinking, understand the football game I was watching, and get to know the girl that I was falling in love with. I'm so thankful that he was able to dance at our wedding, meet our son, and come to our family home. And he was a huge supporter of cystic fibrosis, which our son has. I don't take for granted being able to do all these things with my grandfather, and I will always cherish his 98th birthday that we got to spend in Palm Springs with him. He had such a great time. He lived an extraordinary life, 99 years, which is fitting because in this country, 99 means the great one.
Hi. It's be hard. I'm Charles White, and I had the honor of knowing Grandpa Gene for 15 years. I remember the first time meeting him. Charles and I were early into our relationship, and it was a family dinner organized by Karen, and I could tell it was a big deal for me to meet him. The pressure was on. I noticed immediately the level of respect his family had for him. Reserved isn't really my style, and I was determined to get to know this icon of a man Charles spoke so highly of. I'll admit I put up most of the work in the beginning to cultivate a relationship, but it didn't take long for Gene and I to build a special and unique bond. I once asked him who his celebrity crush was. Without missing a beat, he said Sophia Loren. Can't do better than that. He asked mine. I said Rihanna and Seth Rogen. And he said Seth Rogen is a good choice. At a certain point, I think he even began to tolerate my hugs, with a few gentle pats on my back and an okay if it was a bit too long. Gene wasn't the type to throw compliments around, and he didn't agree with someone's opinion just to appease them. I loved this about him because it opened up the opportunity for banter. He challenged, and I could challenge back. At a certain point in the conversation, if it got too passionate per se, he would announce his classic, anyways, which meant a quick segue to the next topic. Gene and I shared a mutual appreciation for vodka martinis, and he made the best. The first time he made me one, he was mixing all the ingredients, and then he looked at me and exclaimed, "Where's the vermouth?" "Oh, right," I quickly scrambled to retrieve the bottle and handed it to him. He just as quickly handed it back and instructed me to take it to the other side of the room. I pretended to fall for it, and he laughed until he cried. He made that joke every time. One of Gene's best qualities was his sense of curiosity, which obviously served him well in business, but also in other topics like communication calls in birds and what that meant, researching the best tech gadget, Even his tea steeper was high tech. He relentlessly pursued many topics. I think that curiosity is what fed his intelligence well into his 90s. He was so kind. He always made a point to compliment my cooking, and I think he knew what that meant to me. I loved his stories, especially the ones that made him laugh. If anyone wants to hear the best story he ever told me, come find me later. It involves a car and a really pretty girl. Loyalty, curiosity, fairness, and kindness. These are some of the qualities that made me fall in love with his grandson, Charles. And there's no question where those came from. So, Gene, your legacy lives on. May your memory be a blessing.
Good morning, everyone. I am Jean's granddaughter, Danielle, and Greg and Karen are my parents. I would like to share with you some of the qualities that he embodied, which made us so proud to be his grandchildren. He was a man of incredible resilience, creativity, talent, and intelligence. Like a Panasonic, he was ahead of his time. Grandpa approached life with a curiosity and a sharp mind, always eager to learn and share his knowledge. He inspired us to think deeply, dream big, and never stop growing. His passion for music, technology, and interior design greatly influenced many who came after him, including myself. There was a quiet strength about my grandpa that carried him through life's challenges. He faced every obstacle with determination and grace, teaching us all what it means to be resilient. His presence will be forever missed, but his legacy lives on in the lessons that he taught us, and his memory will continue in our hearts.
I'm Amanda, one of Jean's granddaughters. Andrea and Jerry are my parents. So it's not very often that your kids get to know their great grandparents. Since my parents' condo is just one floor above my grandpa's, we would always stop by with the kids. They were always excited to visit their great grandpa at the condo downstairs and look at all the beautiful things. It would always bring a smile to grandpa's face to see them as they grew over the years. He always got them the best presents for their birthdays. He was incredibly generous to us and supportive, and we were lucky to have him there to be a part of our lives from our wedding to growing our family.
A bit higher. My name's JP. I'm Amanda's husband. By the time Amanda and I started dating, Gene was already well into his 80s. Since I was working in Toronto for most of the time we've been together, I never had the opportunity to build a relationship with Gene. That changed, however, during the pandemic, when Amanda, myself, and our young Esme moved back to the city. Working from home during the pandemic was a challenge for me, and Gene offered his second bedroom as an office. I made sure he understood how supportive the situation was, and he would brush it off in his typical stoic nature. We chatted over a surprising wide range of topics, from politics, quantum computing, to technology. Gene was always educating me on the latest Apple products and features, or sharing his lived experience as a successful businessman who started from selling sewing machines to distributing computer hardware and rolling products. He reminisced fondly of his business relationship with Mr. Takahashi, a Japanese businessman Gene considered a close friend, and we often shared his favorite meal, a lunch consisting of okonomiyaki, a Japanese savory street food like a pancake.
We will always remember Grandpa. We are reminded of him daily through all the treasured heirlooms we have scattered throughout our home. May his memory be a blessing.
I'm Greg Fleck, married to Jean's daughter, Karen. How do you possibly pay homage to Jean in a few short comments? We smiled as we left this morning and looked up at the hill and we saw the snow. And we know that Jean is thinking of how great it would be to be up there skiing today. I've known Gene since Karen and I started dating, which is way back in the 70s. Not long after we were married, I was skiing with Gene and riding up one of the longer chairlifts at Whistler. Gene knew he had me trapped for at least 20 minutes. And during the ride, he asked me if I wanted to join him in his new venture, his new company, which was importing computer monitors. I said, "Thank you very much, Gene, but I'm not sure that that's a great idea. Family businesses can end up in disasters." Gene's response was short and simple. "You really don't have a choice." The rest is history. We worked together for over 30 years, first as an active company, then commercial real estate, which we continue to hold. The company grew quickly and added offices across the country, and we eventually sold over 1 million units of products. I traveled with Gene across the country, often to Japan, Korea, and Taiwan, visiting suppliers. I was always amazed at his energy, inquisitive mind, and nurturing spirit to all he engaged with. He was the consummate tech lover, as been mentioned before, always getting the latest product from Apple and then complaining they needed to make all sorts of different improvements. For instance, when we started selling the Panasonic's old dot matrix printers, changing the fonts were very cumbersome with the old software. So Gene talked the factory into a simple switch, which resulted in us selling hundreds of thousands of these products and Panasonic in the millions around the world. A simple switch to move it from near letter quality, draft, and condensed. He was always looking for new products to enhance our existing lines. Gene and I didn't always agree on things, and he avoided confrontation as much as possible. And I smile thinking back to Gene broaching a subject to discuss, which he'd come to me and say, "Greg, you're not going to want to hear this." And of course, then he would express his thoughts. And this happened, of course, many, many times. Gene was a remarkable man, and I couldn't have found a better partner and mentor and friend and father-in-law. He was loved and respected by all of his staff, customers, associates, and suppliers, a man of incredible dignity and integrity. During the last few days, we've reached out to inform many of Gene's friends and associates of Gene's passings, and the responses have been overwhelming in their affection, respect, recognition of his integrity, thoughtfulness, and wisdom. Very heartwarming and deeply touching thoughts and comments. In Gene's twilight years, his mobility started to suffer a bit. He then had some help, which a few are here, Lena being one of them, his physiotherapist, and Julie. Then he was introduced to Lydia, and Lydia has spent wonderful years with Gene. They've traveled to Hawaii. I believe that Lydia was telling us that Gene was actually surfing one time, meaning, of course, the waves were breaking and he needed some help to get in. But Lydia added great comfort and joy for Gene during these years. And on behalf of the family and everybody, we want to thank you for coming and thank you for being here. And thank you, Rabbi.
Thank you. As the perceptive rabbi once said, everything has been said, but not by me. The family asked that I prepare a eulogy, and I'm going to just share with you a few bits of it. Maybe I'll edit as I go. Gene Trademan was a man who graced this world with his wisdom, determination, and humor for nearly a century. The words of Ecclesiastes remind us, "Kol zman ba'et, to everything there is a season, a time for every purpose under heaven, a time to be born and a time to die." Today is our time to reflect, to celebrate, and to honor Gene's remarkable journey through life. He was born to Clara and Abraham Trademan in Kenora, Saskatchewan, November 12th, 1925. To scroll way down on my calendar thing to get that in. As their only child, Gene's early years were filled with a deep bond with his one cousin, Phyllis, from Calgary. Their relationship remained close throughout their lives. The Trademan family later moved to Edmonton, where Gene spent most of his schooling years. Gene often reminisced about those cold Edmonton winters, sharing the charming image of himself and his friends walking to school with cardboard boxes over their heads, holes cut out for their eyes to shield them from the freezing wind. Gene's life was remarkable and marked by resilience. The sudden passing of his father from a heart attack when Gene was a young man was a profound loss that shaped his outlook on life. Yet despite his early tragedy, Gene persevered, moving to Vancouver to attend UBC, where he earned a degree in geology. It was at UBC that Gene met Shirley, the love of his life. Their marriage spanned an incredible 66 years, filled with adventure and companionship, and Shirley predeceased Gene, but their love and their dedication to one another remains, as we all know, an enduring legacy and so much a part of his life. Gene and Shirley traveled extensively, visiting Europe, Israel, Japan, the South Pacific, Hawaii, and more. And these experiences enriched their lives and deepened their connection to each other. Gene was a man of many talents and passions. As has been mentioned, in his early working days, he sold sewing machines, a job that led him to a surprising skill as a sewer. Gene sewed curtains for his family home and even crafted Andrea's moonbeam skating outfits and Karen's baton majorette costumes. Gene's entrepreneurial spirit was evident throughout his life. He partnered with Jack Leschgold at Great West Imports, distributing musical instruments, particularly guitars, and his determination to master that guitar led to many evenings of practicing the same song over and over again, embodying his drive to excel in whatever he pursued. This business eventually connected him with Taro Takahashi, the founder of Roland Music, establishing a long-standing friendship and partnership. Gene's ventured involved into Service Works, a company that thrived for 15 years before transitioning into commercial real estate and investments. Gene was a man that never judged a book by a cover or a person by their outsides. He lived the teaching from Pirkei Avot, do not look at the vessel, but at what is inside it. He modeled acceptance and taught his children to value people for who they truly were. The more unique or odd sometimes someone was, the more Gene was fascinated by them. His gentle and curious nature made him an extraordinary role model and a friend to all who knew him. His determination was one of his defining traits. He was always striving to make things better, whether it was, as mentioned, perfecting his guitar playing, improving his skiing technique, or even revamping the scooter company that he joined to assist Shirley. This same determination was evident in his optimistic outlook on life. As has been said, even a miserable ski day, Gene would declare, "It's a wonderful day skiing." When his accountant joked, as I mentioned, that he could live to 170 to avoid some capital gains taxes, he replied, "Okay, I'll do that." Gene's connection to Judaism was profound. Though not strictly observant, he was a proud Jew, generous to the community and deeply supportive of Temple Sholom, as Rabbi Bregman mentioned, particularly after the fire that destroyed the synagogue building on West 10th. He also supported the Weinberg residents, the Jewish Federation, and of course the State of Israel, which he viewed as a vital safe haven for the Jewish people. Gene's commitment to Israel reflected his belief that it must always be protected and maintained for the survival of the Jewish people. And has been mentioned, his embrace of technology was extraordinary for someone born before the advent of the television. He was an early adopter of Apple products, mastering every new gadget with enthusiasm. His love for innovation extended even to his later years when he branched into high-tech hearing aids and sporty red walkers. Gene's character was marked by gentleness and politeness. He abhorred confrontation and rarely raised his voice. If he ever got upset with Andrea or Karen when they were young, he would simply ball his fist quietly by his side, an act not of threat but of self-restraint. And this quiet strength and integrity deeply influenced all of those around him. Above all, Gene was devoted to his family. He visited Shirley daily at the Weinberg for almost 20 years, lovingly caring for her. Their life together was filled with joy and family and a love that served as an anchor for everyone who knew them. The Torah teaches us in Deuteronomy, choose life, that you and your descendants may live. Gene embodied this value, embracing life with optimism, curiosity, and determination. His legacy is one of integrity, honesty, and intellectual curiosity. He asked good questions, possessed a sharp mind, and a dry sense of humor, that brought light to those around him. He was a loving father, and grandfather, and great-grandfather, whose life and values will be cherished by all who knew him. I want to say on behalf of all of the Klei Kodesh past and present at Temple Sholom, and if I can be so bold, on behalf of the Vancouver Jewish community, I want to express our heartfelt condolences to this family and to the circle of friends. He really was one of a kind, as Rabbi Bregman said, a mensch, a remarkable man, a blessing in the lives of all who knew them, all who knew him, and many who might not even know of him, but were blessed by his kindness, his wisdom, and his generosity. May Eugene's memory be a blessing and an inspiration to all of us. Zichrono livracha, may his memory forever be a blessing. Amen. We have two prayers that we say now as we stand at the graveside. One before placing the casket is called El Melei Rachamim, a prayer for Eugene's soul. It's not in your handout, but I'm going to chant it, and then we'll do a reading and say Kaddish. El Melei Rachamim, Shochen Bamromim, Amitzeh Menucha Nechona, Tachat Kanfecha Shechina, Im Kedoshim Utechorim, Kezochar Rekiem Maskirim, Et Nishmat Yehuda ben Avraham Bakarla, Shechalal Olamo, Baal Harachamim, Yastirechu, Besetek Nafav Olamim, Vaitzror, Bitzror Chachayim et Nishmato, Adonai hu nachalato, V'yanuach, B'shalom, Al Mishkavo, V'nomar Amen. Compassionate God, eternal Spirit of the universe, grant perfect rest in your sheltering presence to Gene, who has entered eternity. O God of mercy, let him find refuge in the shadow of your wings, and let his soul be bound up in the bond of everlasting life. God is his inheritance. May he rest in peace. And we say together, Amen. Before we recite Kaddish, I'd like to just direct you to the poem on the inside of your handout. When I die, if you need to weep, cry for someone walking the street beside you. And when you need me, put your arms around others and give them what you need from me. You can love me most by letting hands touch hands and souls touch souls. You can love me most by sharing your joys and multiplying your good deeds. You can love me most by letting me live in your eyes and not in your mind. And when you say Kaddish for me, remember what our Torah teaches. Love doesn't die. People do. So when all that is left of me is love, give me away. The Kaddish prayer is on the other side of the page. Yitgadal v'yitgadash shemei Rabbah, v'yomad divrach yerutei v'yamlich malchutei, v'chayachon v'yomechon uv'hayed chol beit Yisrael, v'agala v'zman kariv, v'yimru. Amen. Yehi shmei Rabbah mevarach le'olam u'amei almaya, yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitroman v'yitnaseh, v'yitadar v'yit'aleh v'yit'alal shemei dekudisha b'rechu, le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata, tushbechata v'nechemata, daminon v'alma v'yimru. Amen. Yehi shlama Rabbah min shemaya, v'chaim aleinu v'al Yisrael v'yimru. Amen. Osei shalom b'yirmomav, huya asei shalom, aleinu v'al Yisrael v'al yoshvei tevel v'yimru. Amen. May the source of peace and peace to all who mourn and comfort the bereaved, and we say together, Amen. Friends, we're going to lower the casket now, and after it's placed, I'll invite the family to come forward to place earth, and then for the rest of us to continue in following with that mitzvah.